England and Wales. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Hello. Do you think the opposition is underperforming?
Well, that's a very broad question, but the short answer is if there are any deficiencies in Labour's performance at the present time, the onus for that goes entirely on the shoulders of the former right wing in the Labour Party, the Blairite right wing, of which Lance Price was a spokesman for Blair and for his ilk. And the mess that the Labour Party got in was because of the policies of Tony Blair, which we're still suffering from. Jeremy Corbyn represented a new departure. We support him in his anti-austerity stance, in his opposition to planned poverty, because that's what it means. There's huge poverty and discontent in Britain, and going back to a retread, like Yvette Cooper, going back to the past is no alternative.
Well, I mean, you say a retread, but
campaign by the press and the media.
Tony Blair did win 3 elections.
Try and undermine Corbyn.
Tony Blair did win 3 elections.
He won 3 elections on the basis of an entirely different situation in Britain, on the basis of the mess that the Tories had got themselves into after 1992, and also on the enthusiasm and the kind of thirst for a change in the situation. But Blair led us into a war in Iraq and all the catastrophes that flow from that, carried through the biggest privatisation in British history, building on what Margaret Thatcher and the Tories did, carried through a counter-revolution, in effect, in education, the attacks on the poor. There's many issues.
I get it that you didn't like the Blair, you didn't like New Labour, you didn't like what Blair did, but seriously, can you say, well, that's to blame for why Jeremy Corbyn isn't doing better?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn, when he was elected, generated enormous enthusiasm and still generates enormous enthusiasm. Look at
but didn't win an election.
Membership of the Labour Party, which was down to terrible figures. People like us were driven out of the Labour Party. Why? Because we defeated the poll tax, because we defended working people, and Blair, in effect, carried through attacks on working people. That's what the media and the right wing in the Labour Party, like Frank Field, want to return back to. That's to return back to the discredited past. We need a new road, which Jeremy Corbyn has opened up, but it needs socialist policy.
But why is it not more popular?
Sorry, go on.
Why is it not more popular, though? You should be, surely, Labour should be, the opposition should be miles ahead. I mean, the government's really unpopular.
Well, the government is making a mess of it, that's true. But when you have, in effect, a fifth column, a Tory and Liberal fifth column in the Labour Party that uses every opportunity, as happened today, with Mandelson, with a whole series of right-wingers in the Labour Party attacking Corbyn, that is to undermine the confidence of working people in the message that Corbyn is putting forward. And when you say that socialist policies are unpopular, look at the opinion polls for the renationalisation of the railway, for utilities and so on. That's enormously popular.
It is.
But that message is not getting out and being hammered away at because we have people like Field, people like Mandelson, who talk about returning to the past. It would be a disaster for the Labour movement and for the working class.
Why can't Jeremy Corbyn, though, have the traditional broad church? I mean, he was part of Tony Blair's broad church. Couldn't it be around the other way?
He didn't have a broad church, with all due respect.
Jeremy Corbyn was still... He wasn't thrown out of the party, was he?
We were thrown out of the party.
Jeremy Corbyn was there all the time.
Jeremy Corbyn, he dissented many times from the politics.
Yes, and he was allowed to.
He was an accident of history in the sense that he managed to get the Labour leadership on the basis that they thought he was harmless. They gave their votes to him and so on. And then the young people and the massive working people seized hold of that, voted him in as the leader of the Labour Party, which was a seismic event. And since then, he's faced continual sabotage, what I would call the backstabbing tendency within the Parliamentary Labour Party and at all levels of the right wing. What we need is to clear these people out, not to criticise Jeremy Corbyn, and launch a programme in housing, education, social services, linked to the idea of changing society, linking it to a democratic socialist solution.
So where do the Frank Fields of this world go then? If they're sort of too Blairite for you, should they be in another party, in your opinion?
Yes, definitely. Let them go with the Liberal Democrats. Frank Field is threatened now to organise a by-election. He's like a man standing on the ledge saying, if you don't back me, I'm going to jump. Most working people have said, go ahead, Frank, jump, because you represent the past. We don't wish any harm to particularly, remember, I'm from Liverpool. I'm from Birkenhead. I was born in Birkenhead. I know the desperate poverty that exists in Birkenhead. Frank Field and his like have done nothing to change the conditions of working people in Birkenhead, in Liverpool, and throughout the country. And if there's not a change, I'm telling you, there'll be mass movements in Britain that will shake the establishment and shake capitalism to its foundations. Capitalism is the problem. A system based upon production for profit and not social need. And it's not Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn's message is being muffled because of the right wing in the Labour Party. Get them out of the way. Go to the working people on the kind of programme, the anti-austerity programme of a living wage, of huge increase in housing and education expenditure on the basis of a planned economy, take over the handful of monopolies that dominate the British economy and introduce the democratic socialist plan of production. That's the road to which the Labour movement has to operate in the next period.
Peter, thank you very much for your time. Peter Taaffe, their General Secretary of the Socialist Party of England and Wales, with his take on why